Hello and welcome to The Neutral Voice. I'm Samungdev Burma, and in this series, we speak with experienced practitioners about how conflicts unfold in real life and the role that neutrality plays in guiding disputes toward clarity rather than escalation. Today, I'm joined by Ms. Sandra Hitchcock, a mediator and relationship therapist with extensive experience working in dispute rooms where emotions, communications, and power dynamics intersect. In this conversation, we'll explore why conflicts often escalate instead of resolve, what tends to happen beneath the surface, and how neutrality can shift the direction of a dispute. Miss Sandra, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you, and thank you for having me.
So, drawing from your experience, when conflicts enter a formal dispute or a mediation setting, what usually lies beneath the surface?
I think that is such an important question because whenever one starts a process like this, your main objective would be to really try and hear what is lying under the surface because often people say things, but then they don't say what they really mean or need. So one has to get down to, we have that old iceberg um, analogy where you hear this, but what is going on under the water? So often people just need to be heard, first of all. They need to be heard in a safe space. Sometimes they just want an explanation from whoever they are in dispute with or in conflict with. Sometimes they want to ask a question. Sometimes they want to have an apology. But most of the time, their needs are not met and people become very positioned. So as soon as people are very positioned, the conflict will escalate because now I'm not hearing you anymore. Now they move into that where people are stereotyped. Um, Everything is generalized. It's always bad. You always do that. You never this. And also where assumptions are being made about and people can't listen anymore. So they lose the ability to hear the other. And also often then they will have almost like tribes, both sides supporting them and almost fueling the conflict with the support to whoever they are supporting. But when you hear somebody in a dispute or in a conflict situation coming back with the same emotion, you must realize that it is important for that person. Their need has not been met. So you, as the neutral person, are interested to understand what both people's needs really are, what they need to get from this conflict.
Yeah. Yes, very interesting insight because in the beginning itself, we can commonly observe that each party, when they approach, they surely want resolution. But at the end, we see it's conflict rather escalating. Uh, is there a recurring emotional or communication pattern that you often notice when disputes actually begin to harden?
Yes, if you think about what are you entering, who are you helping? You always, whether it's a business dispute or whether it's a family conflict or whether it is a divorce that needs to be settled, whatever that is, there's a system that these people are functioning in, and according to the systems theory, there are the specific patterns of communication in a system. So if you do this, I respond like that. If the mom says this, the dad says that. So people often fall back into those unhealthy patterns. So one has to help them to get to really hear each other, to provide a safe space for you to be calm, to help again to go back to what are the real needs and the positions that they've taken in, and also to help them to understand what it is about. Because if we have to go back maybe to what is the definition of conflict, and I think that is very important for you and I to talk about that a little bit before we continue. Because if you think about what happens in a conflict, why do people why are people in conflict? So first of all, it's expressed. You see or you hear or you feel the conflict. Okay? Sometimes people don't even say something. You just feel that heaviness. So there's an expressed, that's going on. They are interdependent, so they need something from each other. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to be in conflict.
Yeah.
and they perceive that it's incompatible. Their goals are incompatible and scarce resources. So if we use the example of divorce, for instance, what would scarce resources be? It would be children and money, hey, normally, and time
Yeah.
with the child. So your task is to help them through the skills that you have as a mediator or as a neutral, whatever you want to call yourself at that point. Your skills to coach communication. If they're shouting, you calm, you lower your voice. You do things like clarification. You would ask questions, pretend that you don't understand what it is that they're saying to help them hear each other. You would rephrase, when somebody says something really terrible while they're communicating or shouting, rephrase it, make it sound different, same
Yes.
information. You will do things like normalizing, within the circumstances where you are. It is understandable. This is how these are difficult situations. These are difficult conversations, so normalize for them. And also, often, some silence. If you
Yeah.
are silent and
Yeah.
people, I would often let them go, and sort of
Yeah.
shout and scream and do their thing. It's as if it echoes through the room. In the end, they start hearing themselves, or they stop doing what they're doing. Another thing that is quite effective that I have found, especially in family work, would be to say, "I'm wondering if this is how you communicate at home, because I'm
Mm,
getting anxious and I'm wondering what your children are experiencing." That kind of
mm,
um, just almost bringing them back to reality. So the communication is probably, we if they can't communicate at home and they can't, how can they resolve conflict? So it will escalate.
mm. Oh, oh. Thank you. This brings us to a very deep insight about the importance of communication with relation to conflict. As you mentioned about like silence itself being playing a huge role in settling the dispute, the conflict, and as well as bringing the context of family dispute and how it can be resolved. Talking about the role of the neutral, be it as a mediator, when there are like emotional or power imbalances between the parties, from your personal experience, what helps you stay grounded and neutral in practice?
Yes, often it's also referred to, neutrality is also referred to as impartiality. We can say whatever we want to, but we can't be completely neutral because we are human beings and we have biases, and we have had experiences, and we have belief systems, and we have certain ways that we view the world. So I think most importantly is for you to really clean the slate when you enter into mediation. You want to try and manage other people's negotiations for them. You have to really know what it is. What are your beliefs? What do you feel strongly about? So if whatever comes up, say for instance, you grew up with a father that was an alcoholic, and you have a strong thing against alcohol, and this person sitting in front of you. So you have, is an alcoholic or something like that. So you really have to think about what it is that you're bringing in. If you work with families, you have to think about what are your value system according to parenting, because they might have completely different views on that. So stepping into that space, I think you have to know yourself well. You have to sit back and say, I am helping other people negotiating. I'm not negotiating on their behalf. I'm not educating them.
Yes.
That kind of thing. So yes. So how would one enter that space would be that to really get both people to see and to understand, to experience, maybe is the right word, that you are not taking sides. What would be in there for you to take a side? You're here to help them, to provide a
Yeah.
safe space. You have to be very calm. Even if you don't feel so calm always, you have to take it. People
Yeah.
will often say to me, "Oh, you are so calm," and then I think, "Oh, you don't know what's going on in my stomach currently."
Yeah.
So that to be able to hold a space for them and to let both people feel heard, and
Mhm.
that you are not taking sides. And one can do that very effectively. Eye contact with your rapport. How do you build rapport with people? Um, just your body language, when you're looking at somebody, use your arm to bring the other person in as well. So if
Mm.
you can manage that, um, I think for me that would be so important, especially in the beginning, for them to realize that you are there to do that, because you have to keep them in the process. If they feel that you're choosing sides, you won't keep them in the process. The other thing would be to say right in the beginning, if ever in this conversation you feel like I'm choosing sides, speak to me immediately, and we can talk about why do you feel like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've answered your question correctly. If you
Yeah,
want me to say
I
more.
think yeah, the from the standpoint of a mediator or as a neutral, I think you have answered very clearly. Now that brings me to the next question. Like from the standpoint of the conflicting parties themselves, when they approach a mediator or a neutral, uh, what have you observed in your like extensive years of experience? The common misperceptions or misconceptions when they approach a mediator. The parties, of course, they want to be heard themselves, but again, there will be the conflict in how to come to a common ground, a neutrality. So, what common misperceptions have you observed amongst those who have approached you as a mediator, as a neutral?
Yeah, maybe I want to say, first of all, that I've been busy with mediation for about 20 years now, I think. And if I think back to how it has shifted from right from the beginning, where people would not know about the process, first of all, and, would rarely be referred by lawyers for the mediation process, I want to say that people now come and say, we want to do it this way. We want to do what is best for our family, for our business, so that is shifted. So the reason why people come in, the difficulties that I find is that when people have first been part of a legal process where they have been fighting in court, or not even in court, but through lawyers and lawyers' letters, people end up in your office angry and very far apart, and then they, the work is so much harder because they are so angry now, and they are where maybe it started with one difficulty, it has proliferated into the whole world, you can see that very clearly in when we work with family businesses where the whole family works in the business, and now the difficulties start at the business level. So again, it goes through to the family system as well, so
Yes.
now nothing is good anymore, so now people come in with the attitude almost, to your point of what is the
Yes.
misconceptions, that they somehow, I am going to say that you are right and you are wrong. So they still have that feeling of, I want to beat somebody at it. I want to win. I want to almost like have a day in court, So you have to break that down first of all. And the way one does that is to really listen, and actively listen and help them hear each other. For me, that process is always, I have to think in my mind, what is going on? I have to hear what's going on. I have to understand what's going on, help them understand, and then we get to solutions, So the work is much harder if they come in with that kind of angry attitude. So having said that, on the other hand, nowadays, every second person that walks into my office says, I am married to a narcissist, and he would say he's married to whatever he wants
Mhm.
to, whatever diagnosis he wants to make. And that is simply not true, and there are so many, so much jargon being thrown around. So first of all, to let them just feel that you are hearing them. You don't think that whatever that is that the other person is saying about them. But when people are substance abusers and not well, you can't mediate with them, So that would be um, again one of those misperceptions, maybe. So people will be using drugs together,
Mhm.
and then when they start the mediation process, all of a sudden the one is squeaky clean and the other one is an addict, So those kind of misperceptions that somehow this is going to fix all of that. For you as the neutral, you have to remember that you are not part of that, So if you feel that you are working too hard, you know that you have taken on their difficulty as your own.
Yes. Hmm. That's very insightful, actually. because most of the people have the adversarial, the legal system on their mind, and
Mm,
that's how the approach is even when going for mediation, conciliation. So
mm,
the as you said, be it in family disputes or business disputes, the principle remains the same.
yes.
So my next question to you
Can I
would
maybe
be
just add, can I just maybe say
certainly
something more? I don't want to
yes.
leave the impression that I feel that lawyers do something wrong here. If I want a lawyer, I want a good lawyer that fights for me. So
Certainly.
I do mediation training and I train many of the lawyers and they are wonderful people believing in this process, you know. So
Yes.
it's not what I'm saying, but lawyers are taught to fight for their
Yes.
clients, you know. So just wanted
Certainly.
to rectify that.
Thank you. Thank you. So now looking back across your experience, if conflicts before it has escalated, if there's one early signal that maybe be it the listeners to the podcast or people we meet, what is one early signal that one should pay attention, before conflicts escalate?
I think we come back to communication. You know, if people find it
Mhm.
hard to communicate, they find it hard to resolve conflicts. Conflict management is part of communication. So an early sign would be if you are either not resolving your conflicts, or you're not sharing, or people become very quiet,
Mhm.
or they start talking to other people about it and not to the partner or to business partners, whether it's a family or in a business. So that would be one of your earlier signs, you know. And I often think that when somebody becomes very quiet, you need to know that there's something wrong here. And if you look at the escalation of conflict, it normally starts with one thing, and then as I said, it escalates to so many other things. So if you look at if we say bad communication might be one of the reasons, one
Mhm.
has to look at the different ways of or styles of conflict management, because there's a conflict mode instrument called the Thomas and Kuhlman conflict mode instrument, and
Okay.
in the end it divides conflict management into 5 categories, and it talks about people who are highly competitive, people who are collaborative, people who are compromising, accommodating, or the other one would be avoiding. So if you fall into those kind of categories, and you know that I'm avoiding, nothing will get resolved. You know, if your partner is highly competitive, or if both of you are avoiding, so one has to really, if you start feeling that, you know, the heap in the middle of us getting so big, we're not resolving it. One has to really seek assistance and with communication skills to understand, not to say you have to change who you are, but to understand that, you know, how your partner, whether it's a business partner or a life partner,
Mhm.
does resolve conflict.
So as we talk about even our listeners. Amongst our listeners, we have experienced like practitioners, as well as many aspiring lawyers and professionals who would like to take on neutrality, adopt it in their day-to-day practice, or even aspiring to be a mediator. Sandra, what piece of advice would you like to give to them from your years of experience?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that question, because often when I'll talk about the training for mediators now, but often people think that they can do a 40-hour training and they all of a sudden they're a mediator. My advice would be that it has to be something that fits in with whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're a lawyer, psychologist, a social worker, whatever your profession is, has to be added onto. One needs some kind of experience as well, you know, and a lot of emotional intelligence. You know, you have to be able to understand and show empathy with people. So to become a mediator, you have to do some training, and that is a 40-hour training, basic training. You have to do like um, an internship almost, you know, where you co-mediate with somebody that is experienced for a few times,
Yes.
but you also have to do legal. If you are from the mental health professions, you have to do workshops in that, which is very specifically so that you can understand a little bit of the legal system. And then the same, if you're a lawyer, you have to do what we call an applied psychology for mediators workshop, and then stay accredited. So it's often people would say I can mediate anything. It's not that. It's really you entering people's lives and you're helping people to make very big decisions. So you really have to be skilled, responsible, and I think a caring human being. Because it's a responsibility to help people try to resolve conflict.
Sandra, thank you for sharing this insight so thoughtfully. It's very beneficial to all of us, even the listeners, for the fact that in the role that neutrality plays, to all the conflicts, starting from even family level to the whole in the global context. And really, what really stands out from this conversation is how much conflict escalation, it's not just shaped by positions or process, but also what goes unspoken. But in such a light, how neutrality, when it is practiced with presence, empathy, and responsibility, can change the course of a dispute. Thank you, Ms. Sandra, for taking the time to share your experience with us. And also, thanks to everyone listening. This has been The Neutral Voice.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Sandra, thank you for taking your time to
It's a pleasure.
join.
Was that okay?
Yes. Is there anything that you would like to add?
But one other thing that I thought that might be helpful is to talk about the
Yes.
causes of conflict, because
Okay.
some of them are very so for instance, um, Christopher Moore was a mediator who wrote a big mediation Bible like this.
Okay.
He's mediation guru, and
Mhm.
he categorized conflict into 5 causes of conflict. And
Yes.
they are relational, they are structural, data, and just think what else, interest and value. So what I find is that, again, because we're working in a system, all of those are intertwined, and we need to, if we need to get to the needs and why people are in conflict, we need to understand what the triggers are, what the causes of conflict are. And most important would be the value conflicts. People are, because that's religion and cultural, people are so, that's part of your DNA, who you are, that kind of thing. So those conflicts are harder to solve. And sometimes even impossible. Imagine a Christian and a Muslim got married, and now we very happily married. Now we get divorced, and now I
Mm.
want the child to grow up as Muslim, and she wants the child. Those things are almost impossible to resolve. You have to find a way through it. So I was just thinking maybe it might be interesting to look at the categories of causes of conflict.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that adds uh, added depth to what we have already discussed.
Mm,
Thank you once again. Miss,
okay.
is there anything you would like to as a feedback or?
No, I was just wondering where you got where you found me.
Oh,
Oof.
so you were a part of this FICM, Federation of Integrated
Okay, so
Conflict
that way.
Management.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. All right.
the neutrals is a part of it, and
Okay.
we are using this platform as a, to educate, to inform, not just the professionals across the world,
Mm,
but especially like young lawyers or young
mm,
uh, professionals who might
mm,
be interested in getting into this alternative dispute resolution.
mm.
So that is like one of the
Yeah.
missions that we have, and it's our privilege to have you join this podcast and share your valuable insights. I really hope
Thank
that
you.
the things that you have shared from your years of experience with practical applications, I think would be helpful to the listeners.
Thank
So
you. You're welcome.
hoping that we would be able to have you again in the future for
Sure.
future episodes.
Yeah, and
So,
you
Miss,
yourself, do you work in this field as well?
I am a young lawyer. So
Mm,
yes, I am a
good.
practicing advocate. Yes, yes.
Good. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
to hear that you believe in this process. Thank you for the questions and the way you did the interview.
Thank you, Miss. Wishing you even a happy holidays
Thank you.
and New Year too.